Okay, guys, I know Darby All Crit was kind of stupid, kind of ridiculous, but I have one that I know will work for the wrestling videos. Just give me 1 second. Let me go change. Hello, yes, this is Crithausen. Very famous, very critical, very evil. No? Screw it, I'm keeping this one. Normally, I'm not the guy that gets overly critical with WWE. I wholeheartedly understand that this company has made a lot of boneheaded decisions, be it with booking and using their talent poorly, firing people that should have never been fired after using them poorly, and having a deal with Saudi Arabia for that sweet, sweet blood money. But I don't want to be the millionth person to say, Vince sucks, here's why. We know. We all know. And there are so many accounts and channels that point it out. I want to try to offer a less angry perspective and view wrestlers and stories in the company through a more analytical lens. But that doesn't mean I don't get angry. Because trust me, I do. Not just at all the other things I've mentioned, there have been creative decisions made by this company that have driven me up the frickin' wall. You want to know what one of them was? You want to know the gimmick that really gets my blood boiling? Her. Let's talk about her. This ugly as sin thing is named Lilly. She is a magical doll that belongs to WWE Superstar Alexa Bliss. Now I want to preface the video with this. I love the supernatural in pro wrestling. If you can find a way to endear yourself to the audience with a gimmick that is supernatural or out of this world, be it through demons or magic or what have you, I consider you an amazing performer with a ton of charisma and a knack for acting. It's not easy to present yourself as something inhuman in an age where social media makes it incredibly easy to see how human you really are. So know that I don't hate Lilly because she's supernatural. I hate her for two reasons, one legitimate and one admittedly incredibly petty. The petty reason is that she came to be because of the decision made for one of my favorite wrestlers, Windham Rotunda, known in WWE as Bray Wyatt, to lose to Randy Orton at WrestleMania. For the second time in a row, in a story that was all about Bray Wyatt getting revenge on Randy for beating him at a previous WrestleMania. I swear to God, you make it so freaking difficult to defend you. I can't even... The more legitimate reason I hate Lilly is because every time I look at her, all I can think of is how amazing it could have been. But before we talk about how to fix Lilly, all of you are probably wondering how the hell we got Lilly. It's a long story, but I'll keep it as short as I can. It all started during Bray Wyatt's feud with then Universal Champion Braun Strowman. Now, Braun and Alexa Bliss had developed a friendship over a tournament WWE was running called the Mixed Match Challenge, a tourney run on Facebook of all places that paired men and women together in tag team matches, with the winners getting an instant number 30 spot in the Royal Rumble. Braun and Alexa were a highlight of the event, to the point where they developed the impromptu team name Team Little Big because, look at them. This friendship was used by Bray in his Fiend persona to attack Bliss in order to get to Braun. The whole experience left Bliss feeling brainwashed, and she ended up becoming Bray's cohort of sorts, even after the feud with Braun ended. The two got drafted together to Raw, and shenanigans involving multiple personalities ensued. I'm going to skip over most of this for the most part, because the most important stuff happened with the feud with Randy Orton. Just keep in mind that for now, that Alexa Bliss was officially part of the Firefly Funhouse, Bray's fantasy puppet land that he appears in when he's not wrestling, and was interacting with the puppets in much the same way Bray did. So the feud with Randy Orton begins, arguably the one who screwed over Bray Wyatt the most, and the one who had earned the Fiend's vengeance the most. The feud lasts a number of weeks with a lot of supernatural occurrences happening, up to and including falling scaffolding or Randy spitting up black goo. The Fiend and Randy eventually try to settle things at tables, ladders, and chairs in 2020 in a Firefly Inferno match, where the first person to be set on fire loses. After a match with lots of supernatural shenanigans, Randy sets the Fiend on fire, and Bray, while his body is burning, runs after Randy with a vengeance, before Randy hits Bray with the RKO to knock him out. Ring officials put out the fire, but Bray still lays there. Randy, in an attempt to get rid of the Fiend once and for all, sets him on fire. Now, of course, this being the time where WWE had no live audiences and thus could pre-tape their shows and manipulate camera angles without the audience knowing, of course Randy didn't actually immolate someone. But the imagery is still so incredibly haunting. I love stuff like this. So the Fiend is dead. In comes Alexa now. Alexa starts to mess with Randy in the Fiend's stead, doing things like begging for Randy to burn her alive to setting Randy's face on fire. Randy has enough and agrees to Alexa's challenge for a match at Fastlane, the pay-per-view right before WrestleMania. Now throughout this feud as well, Alexa has been trying to perform a ritual to bring the Fiend back to life. And at Fastlane, she succeeds as the Fiend, burnt to a crisp and covered in charred skin, grabs Randy by the ankle and puts him down for Alexa to win. He's back and they're gonna run it back at WrestleMania. At Mania, the Fiend makes his entrance with a video showing his skin healing itself so that he's born again. Bray starts beating Randy down and it looks like he has a chance at winning, until Alexa appears covered in the same black goo Randy was choking on, a crown of thorns on her head. Randy gets an RKO in and he wins. But it's okay. I'm sure eventually Bray will get his revenge on Randy or Alexa or... Hey yo, fuck this company! Alright, I'm calm. Anyway, Alexa Bliss returns a week or two after to reveal that she's no longer associating with Bray, but has instead found a new friend. The doll named Lilly, who apparently has been with Alexa ever since she was a child. They never tell us why Lilly wasn't around when Bliss joined WWE, because obviously this was a recently made gimmick with no plan so they could sell merch on the shop, but I digress. This would be the key focus for Alexa's gimmick for the next few months, until Charlotte Flair tore it apart and murdered Lilly, leading to Alexa to take some time off for real-life issues and her recently coming back in therapy sessions to help deal with her psychosis. So that's the long, arduous, frustrating road we took to get to Lilly. So why do I hate it? Well, besides its inception coming from screwing over one of my favorite wrestlers in the modern day, filling me with a sense of vindictive anger that will never truly go away, it's just such a try-hard gimmick. They want you to be scared of this doll so much that they slap CGI on it to make it bite you or wink. They have it stand up when no one else is around. And Alexa Bliss, God bless her, she's a great actress, but nothing she does will save this gimmick because it was broken before it ever got started. So how would I book Lilly? I'm not going to take the easy way out and say I wouldn't have done it. I'm going to try and fix this story so that it not only makes sense, but it can actually be somewhat scary, and maybe even a bit sad. First fix right off the bat, Bray beats Randy at WrestleMania. No beating around the bush, no waiting until we get to that point. Bray beats Randy like he was supposed to, Vince. Okay. Let's assume everything that happened between Bray attacking Alexa and the Randy feud stayed exactly the same. But let's play up Alexa's relationship with the Firefly Funhouse friends. Let's make her really happy to be there and interact with everybody. Talking to Abby the Witch like a gal pal, treating Mercy like a pet, killing Rambling Rabbit, because what else are you supposed to do with Rambling Rabbit? The friendship she develops with Bray and the Funhouse friends are incredibly important in how we make Lilly work. Now the Randy feud starts. They continue to mess with Randy same as they always have, except maybe scale it back a bit. Maybe instead of falling scaffolding or Randy spitting up black goo, maybe Randy can't open the door to his locker room, but a member of security can open it just fine. Maybe some scaffolding does fall down near him backstage, but he looks up and sees that it's just some guys working and they were clumsy. Keep the audience guessing if it's just Randy's bad luck or if something dangerous is afoot. We continue on until Bray confronts Randy, and here's where some of the more supernatural stuff can go on. Like the Fiend's face showing up on the big screen for Randy's matches, or we see the Funhouse friends in the background taunting him. Then we get the match at TLC. Randy wins, Randy commits first-degree murder. Here's where the big changes come now. Instead of Alexa continuing to mess with Randy, have her first attempt to resurrect the Fiend. The ritual looks like it fails, and Alexa leaves distraught, but give the audience a sign that maybe it didn't fail. Then, have a series of video packages where Alexa is making the doll. Making the pigtails, the dress, sewing in the eyes, gluing on the human teeth. With the Fiend dead, Alexa can no longer enter the Funhouse because it doesn't exist. It can't exist without Bray. So she no longer has the voice of the Fiend in her head, and she can no longer visit all of her favorite pals. So Alexa is feeling empty. This is where Lilly comes in as a coping mechanism for Alexa's loneliness. Now this is another huge difference here. In this situation, the doll is not alive. It doesn't bite, it doesn't wink, it doesn't stand up. I reiterate, the doll is not alive. But the important part is that Alexa thinks it's alive. Alexa treats it the same way she would treat any other Funhouse friend. Randy continues to assume the Fiend is dead and he doesn't have to worry about him anymore. Now things can get really spooky. This is where you can have Randy coughing up black goo, maybe even have him open up his luggage in his locker room and finding a pair of the Fiend's gloves, or even his mask. Randy confronts Alexa backstage, but Alexa says she has nothing to do with it. She reminds Randy that he killed the Fiend, but now she has a new best friend, Lilly. Both continue on with their respective feuds, with weird stuff continuing to happen to Randy. Eventually, Randy has enough and goes to the ring and demands to talk to Alexa. Alexa comes out and reassures Randy that she has nothing to do with this. She says she tried to bring him back, but it didn't work. The lights go out. They become a deep purple. The Fiend grabs Randy's ankle from the bottom of the ring and bursts through. He stands up and glares Randy down. He glares at Alexa, and Bliss has a look of understanding. And Bliss, as if Bray had silently communicated with her, tells Randy that he'll see the Fiend at WrestleMania. Bray attacks, and Alexa feels conflicted. We have the match at WrestleMania. Bray heals his burnt look and again wins like he should have. And this is when we have Bray extend a hand to Alexa, silently offering her a chance to join him again at the Funhouse. Alexa considers the offer and takes a look at Lilly. Spurned on by the silent words of her new best friend and the love of her newfound agency, Bliss refuses. Bray makes a motion to grab at Alexa and Bliss defiantly rejects him. It can be a slap, a kick, a punch. It could even be spraying Bray with black mist, as long as Alexa rejects the Fiend's offer. The lights go out, and the both of them disappear. The next Raw after Mania, Bliss and Bray have their own separate video packages. Bliss talks about how she doesn't need Bray anymore because she's found a new best friend, one that will never leave her. Bray talks about how it was a mistake to let someone else into the Funhouse, and spurned on by the rejection, seeks to be more lethal and aloof. Alexa's career going forward can be pretty much the same, with the same feuds that she had in real life, minus all the instances of Lilly actually being alive. Then when she goes on to face Charlotte, rather than react to Lilly's death with anger, she almost goes catatonic. holding the cotton that made up Lilly's innards as she can barely respond. Then she takes the time off, same as in real life, and we can even incorporate the therapy sessions that they're going to do now. Only instead of Bliss reacting with anger, she doesn't react at all. And the goal of the therapist is to bring her back from inside her own head. And there you go. We took a haphazardly designed gimmick revolving around a doll being alive, and we turned it into the tragic tale of a woman who was robbed of her sanity, tried to cope with the madness, and finally snapped under the pressure of her shattered psyche. Not only is it that easy, it probably would have saved a ton of money on pyrotechnics and CGI effects for the doll. The key part of this fantasy booking lies in the subtlety. You don't have to go all in on the bombastic nature of the supernatural. A little goes a long way. Subtle things can be hinted at being supernatural without being overt, which makes the actual supernatural occurrences feel that much more striking. Also, Alexa should be carrying the gimmick. The gimmick shouldn't be carrying Alexa. She's talented enough that if you would just let her do a little bit of character acting, she could have nailed this gimmick. You also wouldn't have had to make Bray Wyatt look like a chump, but who am I to talk? It's not like WWE has a history of ruining supernatural gimmicks. Like making a 1,000-year-old Chinese warrior that can steal people's soul get up and do a cartwheel. Or having someone who is representative of the oncoming apocalypse lose in 2 minutes on his debut on the main roster. Or firing Aleister Black 2 weeks after you had spent so much money on the freaking Dark Father vignettes. I totally would have brought the book that he was freaking reading from. Thank God for AEW, because Malachi Black is the shit. Called it right here. Crit is a member of the House of Black. All the fakes are snakes. My name is Crit. Thanks for watching.